know, one man's narrative got mixed up with another. It was still the Word of God, but they would have understood the difference back then. You know, they would have understood the nouns being used, the verbiage being used. They could understand it, whereas to us it's not clear.
We're
You
not
have
as
to
smart
take
as
the
they were
context
then.
of it.
We're not as smart as they were then.
No, it's just they wouldn't have understood Twitter and blog and that, you know. So if they, you have to take into effect the time period.
Well, the great question is, and the great confusion for me is, if we go back to the beginning of the Exodus, there was good reason for God to punish Israel and to allow first the Assyrians to defeat the northern kingdom, and then later the Babylonians to assault the walls of Jerusalem. And incidentally, archaeologically, they're finding many olive pits in the area where the original wall was breached, because what the attacking Babylonians did is they cut down all the olive groves, which were apparently outside of the city, brought the wood up and burned it against the wall to break through the wall. And that took some time, and they had them under siege for some time, so there was tremendous effort put forth to breach through the walls. And then they took these people in Judah, the southern kingdom, and destroyed the temple and took all those well-trained leaders out of the country and took them to Babylon, which is located south of the present-day Baghdad. And what a tough punishment that was. Do we see that kind of punishment today for ourselves or for others who have displeased God? Many people were punished in wartime, World War II, not only Jews, but other races and other cultures. Tremendous death loss. Was God trying to punish people at that time? Tough questions to ponder.
Each of us are coming at this from our own experience and talking about the servant suffering, not maybe necessarily silently, but without violence. And I keep thinking of the people in Central America. Several of those countries, and especially Guatemala, and it's not over yet. But for 40 years, we're trying to have some justice. Now, what they did to bring this on themselves, I can't answer that. How God could be, punishing them. But I do know their suffering has affected untold numbers in the Christian community throughout the U.S., let alone there in their own countries, as a witness to being faithful to God, doing what they see God's will for them and their people, and suffering unto death for what they think is right. Having that much faith, that kind of strong faith from very simple people, grabs you and doesn't let you go, and has an impact, tremendous impact, on so many of us for so long, that is ongoing. So I can see the suffering for others, how there is good that can come from that, even if they never have any inkling of getting through it.
Well, what you've said reminds me and probably the rest of you of what's going on in Egypt today. And we have a few individuals there that self-immolated themselves by setting themselves on fire and burning up. And I don't know whether that's the kind of sacrifice that the Lord would approve of, but certainly those examples are shown to us today. And there's always the story of how many times has a fellow soldier thrown himself on a grenade to save the others around him. And those are, I think, perfect examples of voluntary giving. Certainly there could be no reward for some of those who have lost their lives. Now the Leader's Manual poses an interesting question. They ask, have you ever heard of the traditional first law of nature? And the first law of nature is explained that in any animal kingdom, including humans themselves, that self-preservation is the key thing. We tend to, all instances, to try to preserve and save ourselves. Now there's some instances where a mother will fight to death to protect her offspring, but by and large, any animal will do whatever is necessary to preserve himself.
But we are a higher order, and hopefully we are there to help others. And, you know, going back to what the question you asked was, you know, the world is a rough place. And I think it's up to us, doing God's work, helping others. I think, did you all read the paper today about those gentlemen, was it from El Dorado, who are helping those boys get them out of slavery in Africa? Just look how they worked. I just think it's tremendous, and to me that's God's work through us.
To do justice.
Yeah, to do justice, and that's kind of what Larry said today in his sermon. It's up to us.
Well then, what part do we take today as we look at Tunisia and Egypt and the potential in Iran to answer this question? If self-preservation is a strong part of all life, why would anyone, individual or nation, take on the punishment that is due someone else? Why would someone risk her or his life for the sake of another, especially if that other is not even known to one who risked her or his life?
I don't think you think about it. I mean, as human beings, I think we're automatically plugged into helping other people. I really do think that. I think God's put that in us, that that separates us from the animals. That we, I know, I saw a wreck one time. It was a bad wreck, and all I could think about was stopping my truck and get out and pulling two kids out of the car that I didn't know whether it was going to blow up or what.
Did you do that?
Yes,
Amazing.
but the guy that hit the car, he ran off. He jumped out of his pickup and he ran. And I'm helping this lady and the two kids get out of the car because I don't know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
you know. And it just, I mean, I didn't think about it. I just pulled over and jumped out and started doing what I needed to do.
It's instinctive. Yeah,
And I think that's the way, as humans, I think that's the way we're really meant to be.
yeah. Gosh, it's an amazing story. Thank you.